Hey all. So excuse my voice, I'm getting a bit of a late start to my 2022. I got COVID like immediately after Christmas, for the second time. So I had planned on taking a few days off of work after Christmas, but it kind of turned into like a 2-week non-optional break. But it really wasn't that bad this time, and I'm feeling much better now other than a bit of a lingering sore throat. So, as is tradition, this video will be a breakdown of the sewing projects I completed in 2021. I like to review the items, especially the garments, and discuss how well each piece ended up fitting into my wardrobe, and how much I wore it, and how well it held up. This year, I will also give each piece a rating out of 5 stars, based on how well the project fulfilled the function I made it for. Alright, here we go. The first item I made in 2021 was an 18th century inspired dress. It was cut with a conical bodice to wear over 18th century stays. This dress got several wears, but it didn't quite make it into my daily wardrobe. There are a few reasons for this. The biggest is probably the conical bodice and the need to wear it with some kind of historical underpinnings. I don't put a ton of thought into my outfits on a daily basis, I just get up and go, throw something on. So even that small extra level of complication does make me less likely to select this dress from the closet. However, the fit and structure and construction of the dress are great. 1 year later, I really have no complaints substantial enough to even mention. It looks great on me and I love wearing it. However, for the future, though I am planning on finishing up my 18th century capsule wardrobe project, I don't know how many other modern dresses I want to make with a conical bodice, unless it's a costume or historical reconstruction project that I don't plan on wearing daily. Having to wear stays, especially in the summer, it's not that I'm complaining, but I don't have back issues or other chronic pain that stays particularly help with, so there just isn't much incentive for me to wear them consistently. And for the coming year, I really do need to focus more on practical daily wear in my summer wardrobe. But for this dress, I think I'll give it a 4 out of 5 stars. The second thing I made in 2021 were my tabless stays. These were designed to be the perfect history-bounding stays, and I do feel like they lived up to that goal. They fit smoothly beneath a variety of bodices and dresses and skirts. They are thin and lightweight, but just strong enough to keep the basic conical shape you need. They are washable, and I am perfectly comfortable with wearing them sans shift, which was important to me for comfort and lightweight summer clothing. But also because, as I was talking about with the previous dress, the simpler I can make the process of getting dressed, the more likely I am to actually wear fun clothing. With these stays, I can reduce my underpinnings to just the stays and modern underwear with a petticoat if I feel so inclined. While these stays are perfect for achieving that bare minimum conical bust in order to wear 18th century inspired bodices, it's not a very historically accurate shape. It does flatten the bust, but otherwise it follows the natural curves of my body. A more rigid pair of 18th century stays, like my original red pair, do a much better job of giving me that artificially straight shape. So I will continue to wear this yellow pair for modernized or historically inspired bodices, but if I were to make any historical reconstruction dresses, I would probably want to fit them over my red stays. However, for these stays, judging them by how well they fulfill the specific purpose of history-bounding stays, I think they deserve a 5 out of 5 stars. For my next 4 projects, I made a set of cupped and underwired bodices. The idea with these was to make them supportive enough that I didn't need to wear a bra in addition, and to make them interchangeable with a set of skirts and shorts. I was aiming for that easy throw it on and go summer wardrobe. These I consider mostly a fail. In trying to figure out why I didn't end up wearing them much, the first thing that comes to mind is I didn't have enough skirts and shorts to wear them with. But that's a pretty lame theory because I had planned on making a set of matching bottoms to go with them, and the fact that I never even made the bottoms means that I must have realized the tops weren't going to work out pretty soon after finishing, so it wasn't even worth my time to make the bottoms. The fit is good, they are comfortable to wear, so why didn't I end up wearing them? I think there are a few issues going on. One, the fact that they have cups and the way the neckline is shaped, it makes them look more bra-like than I'm really comfortable with as daily wear. Another reason I didn't wear them much is probably simply because they lace up in the back. That's not a huge deal, but like with wearing stays, I need to outsmart myself and make clothing that I'll actually put in the extra 2 minutes of dressing time to wear. And the other thing, probably the biggest reason I didn't wear them, is because of the waistline. This year I kept trying to make pointed bodices without boning, and it just never works. I think there's a reason why pointed bodices were in style for hundreds of years, but then they vanished as soon as corsets did. They just don't seem to work without the boning, and when you bend and the wrinkles cut right through them, they become the opposite of flattering. In addition to not liking the peaked bodices, I had originally aimed for something like the matching skirt and top that Mica Tours made this year. I love it on her, but as soon as I put them on, I realized how much I hate that pale little strip of midriff that separate bodices make. So I sewed loops and tie cords into the bodices and my skirts to hook them together and keep that gap closed. This did technically solve the problem, but it added another level of complication to getting dressed in that I now had to tie the bodices and skirts together before I could even put it on and start with a lace-up back. However, in spite of coming out with 4 bodices that I don't really wear, the project was not a complete failure. I did learn quite a lot about bra patterning and bra making, and I hope to turn the cupped bodice pattern into a bra pattern in the future. And there was one function that these bodices actually did fill perfectly. They were fantastic on the canoe trip. They fit well and were supportive. They were linen and great in the summer heat. They worked well to swim in and dried out quickly. They are much more covering than your average bikini top, which I appreciate. They are machine washable and I didn't worry about dirtying them. I found that by lacing them with an elastic cord instead of a shoestring, they were still stable, but just stretchy enough to be the most comfortable. So yes, these 4 bodices did not work out as part of my daily wardrobe, but they are perfect as a homemade alternative to athletic wear and swimsuits for camping, hiking, canoeing, and other adventuring. In the end, still worth it, I think. So since they did not fulfill the intended purpose of practical, functional daily wear, but they are slightly redeemed by fulfilling another purpose, I'll give them 2 out of 5 stars. The next item was this red, white, and blue dress, which I made just in time for 4th of July. With this dress, I used the same cupped bodice pattern from before, but I wanted to solve some of the issues I had with the bodices. I straightened the waistline, and I made a matching skirt and sewed it to the front of the bodice rather than attaching it with ties. It still hangs as a separate piece in the back, but that doesn't bother me. It's the squishy stomach and side skin that I hate showing. This dress is great, and I love it. It was meant more as a special occasion dress. The print is definitely brighter and busier than I'm likely to wear at any time other than 4th of July, but that's alright, because a special occasion dress was my only real expectation. Being a special occasion dress, the cut of the neckline and the cups don't really bother me, neither does lacing it up. This dress also gets bonus brownie points because it's made out of standard quilting cotton, which I never have luck with. But for once, I like it. I think the real key for the quilting cotton was having a very fitted bodice and then a fairly narrow skirt. Too much bulk with quilting cotton is very obvious and very easily becomes unflattering. This dress I'll give a 5 out of 5 stars for perfectly fulfilling the function I made it for. Next, in 2021, I volunteered a lot of sewing work for my sister Michaela's wedding. I made curtains to cover these ugly batting cages, I ripped off a beaded sleeve design from another dress she didn't end up buying, and added beadwork to the straps of the dress she did want. I hemmed the bridesmaid dresses, and then I took the cut-off hem scraps and used them to make the flowergirl dress. The fabric is a super weird color. It's like a pinkish nude, but with a metallic silver overlay. I didn't have much to work with, just a few long, narrow strips, so I added extra seams to piece a bodice together. For the neckline, we didn't want spaghetti straps because kids can't keep those on. So I layered a bit of nude tulle and a silver mesh together and made a sheer yoke. For the skirt, I ended up using 3 layers. A nude matte satin, and over that the silver mesh, and as the top layer, a nude tulle embroidered with navy and pink flowers. Then, to finish the dress off, I cut all of the flowers and vines I could from the tulle scraps, and then appliqued them at the waist of the dress. The dress is really beautiful, and my cousin's little girl wore it. Her boys were the ring bearers, and that trio was just the cutest ever. I do have mixed feelings about the applique flowers. Sometimes I think it looked great, and sometimes it feels like it was just a bit too much and looked blobby. However, everyone else loved it, so I guess it's fine. There's currently a running contention in the family of who gets the dress once Hope grows out of it. Is it her keepsake since she wore it, or is it Michaela's since it was Michaela's wedding, or is it mine since I made it? We haven't decided yet. Next, in 2021, I made a bootstrap dress form. I have not made a video on this yet, and I'm not sure if I will. If I do, it might be more of a review than an actual tutorial. There are lots of bootstrap tutorials already, and I feel like making a tutorial would be a bit of a waste because I don't actually recommend making one. It was not easy to sew, and it was not cheap. There are cheaper ways I could have done it, but I was trying to follow the directions to the letter. And worse, it's not actually very accurate at all, even after I made it twice, completely redoing my measurements and pattern. The final dress form I ended up with is fine for display, and it is helpful for hemming skirts, but that's about it. I don't feel like it's anywhere close to accurate enough to use for pattern draping, which was my original reason for wanting a custom dress form. So because it is not functional for what I intended, but it does have a small redeeming utility, I'll rate it 2 out of 5 stars. The next project I made was my puffy silk blouse. The gigantic sleeves and the tied collar are a bit much for me for daily wear, but that's okay. I was only planning on it being more of a special occasion piece, which is why I made it from silk. I haven't worn this much, mostly just for photo shoots with other outfits, but I did wear it to Thanksgiving, which is a special occasion. The fit is pretty good. My only little criticisms are that the sleeves are barely too long and the neckline is a bit high, so the collar is a little too tight. Though again, this is a special occasion piece, not daily wear, so minor flaws and discomfort don't matter as much. I'm tempted to rate this as a 4 because I feel like I should have worn it more, but the reasons I don't wear it much mostly come down to the thinness of the fabric in the winter and the expense of the silk, and the relative flamboyancy of the design. However, those were things I had planned on, so I don't think that they should really take away from the score. The blouse does fill the functions I had planned on it filling, and if I want a more functional piece, I should just make a more functional piece, like maybe the same thing in cotton. So it really does deserve 5 out of 5 stars. Next, we come to the surprise win of the year. When I finished this skirt, I was less than thrilled with it because, if you remember, I was copying another skirt and I didn't like how much less full this skirt looked. However, this skirt has become one of the staple pieces in my autumn and winter wardrobe. I wear it at least once a week. Here's what I love about it. It's thick. It's very warm. Given time, I now love the more moderate fullness. I love the fit of the skirt over my hips and how slim it is at the waist, then flaring out. I find it really flattering and refreshing considering how many full and pleated skirts I've made in the last couple of years. Also, the less full skirt was super practical this fall on windy days. It blowed around, but it didn't go crazy and blow all the way up like certain skirts I have. I was also unsure about the waistband at first. Usually I make waistbands wider with belt loops, but with this skirt I realized that I don't actually like wearing belts that much. They look good, and sometimes they totally complete an outfit, but they are another level of complication when getting dressed. And for just daily wear, when I'm at home getting work done and I just want to throw on clothes, I don't need that extra bit of tightness. So with this skirt, I can just throw it on, and I think that's a big part of why it became a staple piece. Unfortunately, the skirt does have a bit of a durability issue. The pockets are super thin and I don't feel secure carrying my phone in them, and the wool has already pilled a bit. It is plush broadcloth from Burnley & Trowbridge, but the pilling might be my fault. There was a fuzzy side to the fabric and a side with a more woven texture. I used the woven texture side as my outer, but that might have been wrong because the inside of my skirt doesn't have any pilling. Overall, I love wearing the skirt and I would definitely consider making it again from a more neutral fabric. Definitely a 5 out of 5 stars. Considering I only made the skirt because of how much I loved the matching jacket, the pumpkin jacket is just like the biggest disappointment of the year. I'm not sure exactly what I hate about it so much, but it's probably the fit. It's just super weird. Probably one of the biggest issues is the darts, since I only used one vertical dart instead of splitting it into 2. Also, the length is an issue on me. Anything waist length on a short-waisted person is automatically a cropped jacket, which is definitely not what I was aiming for. It's not comfortable, it's not flattering, and I haven't worn it at all. At this point, the only reason I'm keeping it is because it goes with the skirt. I do like these types of jackets in theory, probably because they can be sewn unlike cardigans and other knits. But there's just something about the fit or the design that I need to figure out because this is like a total dud. 1 out of 5 stars. The next project I did was to revisit my red silk skirt from last year. If you remember, it had way too much body and that made it super poofy and unmanageable. I threaded a chain through the hem and it honestly transformed the skirt. It looks and wears so much better now. Now the problem is that I want to wear it, but I have to stop myself from wearing it too much because it's still silk, so it's still special occasion. And then I took the remnant from the skirt and I made a matching bodice. It is a conical 18th century inspired pattern, but sleeveless. I spent a week embroidering and beading a pomegranate tree over the stomacher and I wore it to a friend's wedding. I do love this piece. Wearing this set, it felt like a very me combination with the colors, the embroidery, the fit, the silhouette. It was a hot day, but I wore it over just my tabless stays and a petticoat, and it was quite comfortable. I've been wearing the same tiger dress to all of my special occasions for the last few years, and I'd really wanted something new and fresh. And this piece just checked all of the boxes. Now, I haven't worn it since that wedding, but I haven't had any special occasions for the last several months. But for what it was intended to be, I love it. Easy 5 out of 5 stars. My next project was an attempt to perfectly replicate the skirt worn by Claire Fraser in Season 1 of Outlander. This was primarily meant to be a costume piece, but I have worn it some as daily wear. I haven't worn it out and about, It's just like, it's way too big and cumbersome. But wearing it around the house on super cold days is nice because it's like wearing a huge blanket. I don't really have much more to say on this one. The video is quite extensive and I don't really have anything more to add yet. It's not perfectly screen accurate, but given the data and materials I had to work with, I think it's as close as I can currently come. As a reproduction piece, I'll give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Winding down to the last few projects of the year, my jumper dress. This, along with my pumpkin skirt, has made it to staple status. Here's what I love about this jumper. It is incredibly thick and warm. Jumpers are so underappreciated. They're so versatile, they're basically skirts but warmer. This jumper is also a bit loose in the waist. Not enough to be unflattering, but enough to actually be more comfortable than any of my skirts. Jumpers are also so easy to make since you don't have to worry about sleeves or collars. You can just hone in on the fit of the bodice. As I mentioned in the video about this project, there are a few issues. Primarily that the darts look weird, and that I find the Victorian fan skirt slightly impractical for daily wear. However, these are minor issues and they have not stopped me from wearing it. I only feel right giving it a 4 out of 5 stars, which just goes to prove that an item doesn't have to be perfect to become a wardrobe staple. After this, we get into December, and I made a series of small projects that there will not be videos on. These were for the mail-outs that I sent to my top-tier patrons. I really enjoyed working on them, taking a bit of time off to just do some good old-fashioned crafting. The first thing I made were mini stays. These were essentially intended as Christmas ornaments, but they don't have to be. They were made from a layer of linen and a layer of denim, stiffened with gum tragacanth. I haven't used gum tragacanth since making my original stays, and I was once again amazed by the stuff. You paint it on, let it dry, and it totally wrinkles and warps your fabric. But then you iron it out and the stuff gets soft and moldable. Then it dries crisp and smooth. If you're interested in 18th century at all, I highly recommend just getting a bottle and experimenting with it. I also made leather garters. I saw similar garters at a French and Indian War reenactment this fall, and then I found a vendor with just the buckles. The leather is recycled couch leather. I stitched the buckles on with wax linen thread, and the excess length of the garter can be wrapped and tied out of the way. Much better than the linen tapes I've been using. And the last thing I made were swatch books. This was my first try at bookbinding, and it went okay. But inside I attached swatches from the top projects I've done since starting this channel, along with the sourcing information. Just something that I figured would be useful, or at least interesting for people out there. Next I made my plaid Christmas dress. I did learn a lot from this project, and I'd like to repeat it soon to work out the kinks in my pattern. I wore this dress several times at the end of December. I'm sure I would have gotten a lot more wear out of it if I'd finished sooner. The only real impractical thing about it is the short sleeves. That means that for daily wear in December, I can only wear it with a cardigan or something else over it. Like the jumper dress, there are several little fit issues that I noted in the video. Those things were worth mentioning for the learning, but they don't make a huge impact on whether or not I actually wear the dress. I enjoy this dress, but I'll mostly wear it in December just because of how bright and blatantly Christmassy it is. I had hoped that it would be a little more daily wearable, so taking all of that together, I rate it a 3 out of 5. The matching jacket is definitely a step up from my previous jacket project. The fit is much better, but that is partly because I only have it closed at the neck, and it's covered by the capelet, so the fit is hidden anyways. However, it is a bit uncomfortably tight at the neck, and it pinches at the front shoulder, so there are definitely some pattern tweaks I need to make there. This piece falls even more so under the aggressively Christmassy banner, so I won't be getting much wear out of it again until next December. So for this one, I also feel like a 3 out of 5 stars is the best rating. And my final piece of the year, a wool knit turtleneck. I started this project a couple of months ago, just as a nice personal project that I wouldn't film. However, if I'm not filming, my motivation is sporadic, so I never finished it. I planned on finishing by the end of the year, but I got sick and didn't finish it until last week. I'm counting it anyways though, because I made 20 items in 2020, so I had to make 21 this year. The fabric is interesting. It is a wool knit from Mood. It was pretty expensive and it's extremely dense. It barely stretches at all. The pattern I used was drafted from a super flimsy rayon knit shirt that I used to have, which was way stretchier than this wool. The end shirt is wearable, but it's quite tight. Also, it's tight at the neck. Why does that always happen? So this is one that I'll probably keep for photo shoots, but I can't see it being something that I choose as daily wear much, which was definitely the goal. I think I'll give it a 3 out of 5 because I did just finish it and there's a chance I'll grow to like it more than I do now, but I kind of doubt it. So that concludes my 2021. In my previous year review videos, I haven't mentioned future plans because I didn't want to commit myself. And I never have enough time to make everything I think I'm going to. And there are always spontaneous projects that come up. But if I had to forecast what I at least want to make in 2022, here's the list. Starting with winter, there are 5 brown things that I'd like to add to my wardrobe. I want to repeat my Christmas dress in this tan wool plaid. I want to make a nice daily skirt from this double-sided wool. I want to make another jumper dress from this window pane check. And I want to make 2 pairs of pants or trousers, design undecided, from this caramel corduroy and this brown and black check. And if I have time, I might make a couple other simple pieces from the remnants of these fabrics. As far as Outlander costuming goes, I really need to do another bodice. I still haven't had my pattern sized for the Patreon, and that's mostly because I feel like it still needs another pass and a few more tweaks and adjustments. I also really want to make the green dress. I have the screen-accurate fabric, and I've got the skirt figured out. I'm just intimidated by the bodice pattern and the expense of the fabric. For historical costuming, I don't know how much will happen, but there are a couple 18th century reproduction dresses that I would like to attempt. And other than that, I would love to work on either some Emma-inspired Regency pieces or 1860s Civil War era. For Regency, I already have a full set of underpinnings. I would just like to make a short sleeve white dress and a few accessory pieces. For 1860s, I would be starting almost from scratch. All I really want to start is the underpinnings and one dress. I'd like to make one of those dress sets with a skirt and 2 matching bodices, one for day wear and one for evening wear. I feel like that would be a very usable thing to start with. For my personal wardrobe, I attempt to make everything I possibly can. Some things are more intimidating than others, but I would really like to branch into bras and knitwear. Knitwear because we just wear so much knits in the winter and it's the most comfortable thing. But I find that my inability to knit very much limits the percentage of my winter wardrobe that I can actually make myself. And bras because mine are all getting worn out and I'm either going to have to cave and buy a new one soon or figure out how to make it myself. I would also like, in 2022, to finish my 18th century capsule wardrobe project. I already have the fabric for the final pieces, I just have to make them. If I could finish by the end of July, that would make it exactly 2 years from project design to project completion. Encouraging that I actually finish it or discouraging that it took 2 years, take that how you will. Then for my summer wardrobe, it is also getting a bit shabby. I really need to make several plain, simple, wearable daily dresses. One thing I'd like to experiment with is making shirt dresses instead of blouses. Then the blouse can be worn by itself as a dress, or it can be layered beneath a skirt or a jumper, and I love the idea of the blouse skirt acting as a petticoat and also avoiding the shirt tail pulling out and puffing up effect around the waist. I feel like a shirt dress would be just the perfect transitional piece for my wardrobe. So there you have it. This is where I'll leave off 2021 and a general idea of my plans for 2022. Happy New Year, and I hope that you have a great 2022. May you accomplish many things and never stop growing more into who you are and who you want to be. See ya.